No, my name is Elise Leroux and I'm the Managing Director of Xpello. I'm also a qualified attorney, having argued evictions in the High Court, and I'm very thankful that I can rely on my panel attorneys nationwide to do the evictions for us. And Xpello has really has the fortunate position to work with agencies through nationwide, attorneys nationwide, investors nationwide, providers, from system providers and all this different types of things. And I think sometimes the reason why I specifically want to mention this is that Xpello is really situated in a state that we connect people. We really look after the rental market. There's a lot of people looking after the salespeople, because there's, of course, big benefit for them to look after them. And sometimes, the rentals, especially considering that a rental agent doesn't really have control whether the landlord proceeds with the legal action or not. And unfortunately, what I've seen is more often that the rental owners don't always make provision for, for the legal part of it or anything else. So it's good always to know who's the connections, who can help where. And that is part of Xpello's benefits. One of Xpello's biggest benefits is, of course, the topic that we are going to address today. And if I still see so many agencies, they sign up with Xpello and then they do not use us, it's because they either try to resolve the things themselves or they didn't know, at what stage they want to hand over. And that is why today's topic is super important. Just to say, you guys are more than welcome if you wanted to put on your cameras. It's that it doesn't bug me at all. I usually laugh between me and Sean Light. He says he doesn't care about cameras. I say I always like to see who I talk to. We are also going to just over and above. We are having a live event next month. I just want to go and say mute all. We are having a live event next month, May month. I'm also going to Cape Town. So please, if you're in the Cape Town area, let me know that I can come and drink a cup of coffee. And maybe if it needs be, do a small training with your team. If you in Gauteng, we will let you guys know where we are going to have our morning training event, touch base event. I always think that is lots of fun to come out, and there we actually can have real coffee and donuts. So when does one hand over a matter to Xpello? And when I say to Xpello, I specifically mean the breach department. And of course, the one obvious one that we all know is when the tenant is in breach of the lease agreement. And then the second one, and I think this one is actually popping up more and more that we've seen most recently, is that the tenant tells everyone that they're going to vacate, or maybe there has not been clear communications and the landlord thinks they're going to vacate, and then 3 days or 5 days before the end of the month, the tenant advised, well, I'm not vacating, I'm just staying here. And people actually don't know that is also one of the things that should be handed over to Xpello. Because remember, we focus on all illegal tenants. So this is the two instances where a matter goes into breach and should be handed over to the breach department. Now, I'm going to go through this. For the first one is, of course, the letter of demand. Ideally, we still say that we want you to send out the letter of demand, ideally not later than 5 days after the rent is due. Now, the reason why this is from Xpello, so I think an agent will go, oh, which day now? Attorneys are saying on day 2, these ones are saying on the 7th day, what do we do? The reason why Xpello sort of picked the middle way is we know that what we've learned is payment has to come in, it has to be allocated. And many times a payment is made on the 1st, but it only reflects on the 2nd. or there's so many payments made, it still has to be allocated. So, or as it being the first is on a public holiday, and maybe it should have reflected, but it only reflects a day after, or day, 2 days after that. And because you also don't want to prejudice your relationship with the tenant, especially if it's the first time that that payment doesn't show on the first. We always say it is safer to have the system. If you do it on day 3, perfect. If that is what works for you, guys, that's fine. That is really fine. But from Xpello's side, we sort of feel that day 5 is a good time, because technically by then the money should show on your account, because most of these agreements do stipulate it actually should reflect on the first and not just be paid on the first. But I actually still see these agreements that it says it only has to be paid on the first. So keep that in mind. Also, the type of letter of demand, and no, we're not going to do the letter of demand talk today. I think actually what we are going to do on next month's webinar, we will discuss letter of demands, and I am going to ask Alexa or Bruno just to come and put their inputs regarding what they see in the letter of demands. But I think a letter of demand, many people are using system generated letter of demands. And I have to say, of all the systems, especially with the first letter of demand going out, a TPN one is fine, because with the first time somebody doesn't pay, maybe the letter of demand is really just to start the process. So that is something that it just has to be considered. Welcome to everybody that's joining. And now this is where the big thing that is really helpful, and I see a lot of agencies still not doing, is the moment that letter of demand goes out and it's an Xpello client, please CC breach@xpello.co.za. Zelda is going to drop it in the chat as well, and please copy it and save it. Okay, so that is your big brother. If it's an Xpello client and a letter of demand goes out, you have to CC breach@xpello.co.za. The reason why we need this is, without putting any additional effort on our agents, we then get informed the tenant breached the lease agreement. It comes into our ticketing system. We record it and we link it to this matter, because we need to know, if a tenant is not behaving or if it's starting to pick up a trend. What we then will do is we will then diarize that matter for a week. The reason why we diarize it for a week is we have seen that most tenants will make payment on receipt of a letter of demand within the first week, because they're going to go, oh goodness, this is not becoming serious, or it is going to affect my status. I don't want that to show, so I'd rather just pay payment. Or they will contact the agents and say, listen, I ran into these problems. Can I pay half now and the rest at the end of the month, or make a double payment, or whatever arrangements? The problem is the people that doesn't do anything. And I think that is why it is important for Xpello to know about this. So after a week, from Xpello's side, is you will then get an email to say, if we see it from our side, we didn't get anything to say that the tenant made payment, or the tenant replied to all and said, okay, yes, payment, then we will send an email to the agents and say, hi, we see the tenant, a letter of demand went out. Is the tenant still in arrears? And we're going to take it from there. So first step is that the tenant remedy the breach. Now, from the email, or of course, the people that's on our portal, remember, and I'm going to show you guys a bit later on, you can just make a note on the portal to say tenant made payment. But sometimes I think it's easier just to reply to the email to say, yes, we got payment, or maybe it's, listen, we got partial payment, there's an agreement in place. The reason why it is important for us to know if there's an agreement. Say, for example, the agreement is, okay, they will pay on the 15th of the month. We want to note it on our site. What we will then do is we will then go on and we will follow up on that day. So on day 16, We will then just check in and go, hello, we see the agreement was that we should pay on the 15th. They didn't make payment. Do you need our help? So I want to add here, the reason why we do it this way, it's not because we think the agents can't do their work, firstly. The reason why we do this is because we are there to help. And we want you to focus on the important growing your business, doing the inspections, and we manage the breach process for you. So if the tenant then didn't make the payments on the agreement, that is definitely when Xpello is going to take over, because we know that this person is taking a chance. We also take the trends. Remember, at the end of the day, we're not debt collectors or just people managing the evictions. We are problem solvers. So we look at the trends and see, okay, this person is making arrangements and is not keeping to it. So even future agreements, we're not going to make to them because they're not trustworthy. So this is the process that we are going to follow. So this is the couple of things that we look at to see after a week, has their payment been made? Is the agreement in place, or do we need to proceed? Okay. Is there any questions? Okay. Please, I'm also gonna ask if you want to have a question and you don't want to talk, you can drop the question in the chat. If I don't see it immediately, Zelda will pop in and just say, hi, Lise. Here's a question. So let's go back to our process. Now, Xpello works the hardest from the letter of demand up until cancellation. After that as well, but this is the sweet spot that we really focus on. And I think also this is why we have 98% success rate of getting the tenants to pay or move out. So normally, remember, it's standard if it's 20 business days. Yes, we do work with it 7 days and our process differs a bit. But the moment we then realize that we don't, the tenant didn't make payment, we are going to inform them that the matter has been handed over to Xpello. And we encourage them to contact us. The reason why we just do this, again, it sort of tells them that the matter has become much more serious. So Xpello will always say, this is Xpello, we're an eviction management company, and we've been advised you haven't paid your rent. The reason why they then think is that, okay, goodness, this is not just somebody that is going to demand, but the effect is actually the risk of being evicted. That we also make it very clear that the owner, because of the myth, let me state it this way, because of the myth that, most landlords cannot pay the eviction cost, which is actually not a myth. Most people can't afford an eviction. We clearly stipulate to the tenant that this landlord, we are ready to proceed. Our attorneys are ready, and it's really just in his hands to how much he wants to prejudice himself. We then follow our process. Now, just in essence, from the letter of demand up until cancellation, we send a minimum of 4 letters. These letters get emailed, WhatsApped, and we SMS, telephone call, and if necessary, knock on the door of the tenants. And what we do during this process is really to ascertain why did they not make payment. So if they lost their employment, it doesn't just help to focus on getting the payment this month, because next month we are going to have exactly the same problem. So we then have that very difficult conversation with the tenant to say, but if you are in breach already now and you can't pay, it means you're going to be in breach next month as well. And we are not going to grant you an extension because we know you won't be able to continue to make payments. So therefore, we would rather just cancel the lease and want you to vacate. So the big negotiation is really on when are you going to vacate. Ideally, we don't want our landlord to be out of pocket. So if they didn't pay for for April. We're going to push to get them out the end of April. And if there's no damages, that at least the landlord didn't suffer any loss of income. The other reason, and I think it's important to stipulate at this stage, is if it's evident that they can't afford to stay in the unit anymore, it is important that we then rather, instead of focusing collecting that month's rent, to get them to use that money to move to somewhere else. Why do we take this approach? The reason is, if they go and they can barely afford it and they have to borrow and take money from all different people, and that money then goes and they have to pay you, it means they're not going to have money to pay rent at a more affordable place. And they won't be able to pay the deposit. So we would rather want them to take this month's rent and go pay someone else.
Elise?
Yes.
I see Shan did ask you a question there. He said, please advise if Xpello will take on an issue for a property not managed by preferential.
Okay, so
And Sean ready?
Okay, so Sean, preferential is one of Xpello's agencies and preferred power partners. So you can either sign up through preferential, and the people that don't know is preferential offers their landlords a type of guarantee or preferential promise. So we are not a guarantee, Sean. So if somebody just wants to sign up for the Xpello services, they can do that. We have your contact details and we'll reach out to you later just to show. But again, we don't send the letter of demand, so we don't do the rental statements. That is usually what the managing agent does, and or preferential. I hope that answers your question. So I'm so thankful somebody asked a question, then I can take a sip of tea. Okay. If we, during the process, just to recap what I stated before we answered the question was, we really see what we can do to help them vacate the property. This also includes, Xpello will offer them to help them with the move. We will pay their moving costs. We offer to pay deposits. We did various things to get them to move out. We really try and push as much as possible everything that is legal. I want to emphasize the legal part to see if we can motivate the tenant to pay. It's not because we don't want to pay the lawyers. That's not the fact at all. Our attorneys on our panel is fantastic. And we would gladly pay them because then we know that things are done and we are going to get our eviction. The biggest problem, and we will address that later on as well, is time. So if I know for a fact that I can get somebody to move out this coming Friday, then I would rather do an EFT to them the moment they hand over the key, instead of proceeding with an eviction, which can take 12 to 16 or 18 weeks. So we really do absolutely everything. If we see negotiations isn't working, or it's going to cause a real delay, then we will cancel the lease agreement and instruct our attorneys to proceed with the eviction. We will allocate it to one of our panel attorneys, and what we will do is we will give feedback the whole time. So if we go to our portal, for those people that is on our portal for all the agents, if you're not on there yet, or you're not sure how to get on there, please let us know that Zala can reach out and show you to be on there, because there's so many benefits that you can actually just go on there instead of something getting lost in email, or you want to quickly just see what's going on. So if you go to our website and you go into the portal and your matter is marked as breach, you will, on the top, it will always have a summary of the agreement. Will have the X number, the Xpello reference number, the property, the owner, and the tenant. We're going to ask you if a letter of demand was sent. Remember, the process on our side only starts if a letter of demand has been sent. And we stipulate when it was sent. This is now the option, and I hope my face is not in your way. On your side, let me minimize myself quickly here. On the right-hand side, you'll see here, it says it's optional. Select owners to inform of notes via email. So what this means is on the portal, if we have the owner's email address on there, and this matter goes into breach, every time we make a note, and I'll show you where we make the notes, this note will then be emailed to the owner an hour after the note was made. The reason an hour afterwards is because we want to make revision if we want to go back and quickly update something or fix something. We also know there is quite a couple of agencies that don't want their owners to receive some of these notices. For example, they're overseas, or it's an elderly person, you actually deal with somebody else, or there's a dynamic. You have the option to not let it sit. So what you'll do is you purely take out the owner's name in this block. Okay. Any questions regarding this? Okay. So just to make sure everybody is still awake and I'm not boring you to death, at the bottom, there is a reaction thing. So you're welcome just to throw me a thumbs up if something has. Actually, the nice thing also is if you have a question, you could just raise your hands. But the thumbs ups always make me at least feel I'm not just talking to a screen and everybody is on board. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Seppo. Thank you for everyone acknowledging it. On the same page, I would just want to quickly show you, we believe in transparency. We have heard too many times people will say, yes, but the attorneys are dealing with this, or this company is dealing with it, but you have no evidence or there's no clarity. So what will happen is the moment this matter goes legal, a law firm will be linked to a matter, and this is where the law firm will be there. We will show you in which court and we'll have a case number. Okay. Of course, the moment the matter eviction order is granted, we'll put in the date. And because as you can see, this is an example of a matter that's still pending. Because we want you to know and see what's going on. You will also note that at the bottom, all the documentation that we are using is being uploaded here. So we'll have our letter of demand cancellation letter. And if you go down onto the list, it will have the funding affidavit, the issue application, the ex parte documents, the whole matter. Why do we make it available? I don't expect you guys to really read it, except if you're super bored or you are interested. But if somebody ever wants to know what happened, you can see it. I also like to be transparent, and it deems as proof to say that if we say we're going to proceed with an eviction, you can see what's going on. So also everything is available in one place. Then the bottom part. I quickly try to take out most important things that people can't see for which matter it is. But at the bottom, you will see there's all the notes. We make a note that gives feedback and an update on the matter. It will always say what has happened, what is the current status, and what is the next step. It will say who made the notes, and it will say the date of the notes. So somebody from the agency's office can also make a note to update and stipulate. The nice thing is our attorneys as well, they can come and make a note on here, and they will give feedback as to say the eviction date allocated is, for example, this date, and this is what happened. The good news about this is after an hour, that note then gets emailed to the owner. You don't have to play telephone. You don't have to phone the owner. And the nice thing is if the owner has specific questions, Xpello will deal with it, because they will then usually reply to this note, I don't know, understand this, or why is it taking so long? And then we can give more details, because that is our job. We want the attorneys to focus on doing the legal work and getting the results we want. We want the agents to focus on, doing the management, getting more properties, and we will answer all of these questions. And if we are not sure, we will go to our attorneys or the relevant person and say, listen, they asked these questions. Can you just give us some guidance? So this is also a nice record. So if on the Friday evening, while you're drinking wine, you're thinking, this matter, what's happening with this matter? You can actually then just go onto the system and quickly have a look and see how is it going. So the system is quite amazing. Zelda, will you just drop the link for our portal as well in the chat? So if you guys are here, please copy it and go there if you're not onto our system as yet. Okay, I think that is quite important. Shane has got a question. Please advise what is expected from a managing agent when a tenant does not pay on the due date, so that we can hand over to Xpello with the correct process followed. So, Shane, that is exactly what we stipulated now. From our agents for our Xpello clients, we want the agent to CC breach at xpello.co.za when they send out the letter of demand, in order for us to know that it's going on the system. Also, if a landlord and agents, everyone, please note that if they registered with Xpello, you are okay. You may share the letter of demand and the rental statement with us. It's not contravention of POPI. Okay, so that is quite important. The quicker we get the information, the better. Jessica is asking the question, do you claim any monies due to the lease, or do you just do the eviction? Jessica, during the process before cancellation, we see how much money we can get or collect on behalf of the landlord, because we don't want them to be out of pocket. However, the moment we cancel, proceed with the eviction, Xpello's only responsible and focus is the eviction. The good news, however, is that if the owner wants to issue summons for the outstanding amounts, our attorneys dealing with the eviction will then be able to proceed with the summons for the landlord at a discounted rate. Now, over and above that, you get discount then on the legal fees. You also save a lot of money because you don't have to pay for opening the file, reading the papers and all of that, because they already did that. Xpello already paid it. So actually, when I had a meeting with our attorneys, they confirmed that our owner saves about 5,000 to 7,000 Rand just because they're an Xpello client and Xpello is paying the eviction. So I think that does help. I hope that answers your question. If you guys, if anybody's on here that's not an Xpello client, remember, Xpello wants people to sign up before they are in breach. They do not qualify for our services if they are already in breach. So just keep that in mind. At most, what we can do is we can refer you to our attorneys and to say, listen, speak to them, and they will then just do the job. They won't get our members discount if they not signed up with us. But at least I know you're dealing with attorneys that knows what they are doing. Because unfortunately, I see people sometimes look for attorneys like you look for insurance, they hippo it, and then they go for the cheapest. And that's maybe not always the best. I do believe evictions, and especially if it goes with the collection part, is a specialized field. It's not just a normal debt collection. And I never want you just to focus on issuing summons, because most attorneys out there that doesn't specialize in evictions, they just focus on issuing the summons to collect the money, but the tenant continues staying in the property. What will happen is you are incurring costs for an eviction, for the legal fees, for the collections. You're not actually getting money, because it's like Bruno once corrected me, it's a summons process. That doesn't mean you can't call it a collection process, because there's no guarantee that you're actually going to collect any money. The one thing that I want to say is then, of course, when Xpello decides, is we decide when to cancel and evict. Why this is important is we make the informed decision on what is the status. Say, for example, we have there's a breach, the tenant didn't pay for April, and on the 15th of April, we can enter into an agreement that we get a partial payment, as well as the tenant will vacate, for example, the end of May. Now, if there's no history that this tenant did not keep to their arrangements, we have things that is in place to show that they are going to vacate. Xpello would advise the landlord to take the agreement. We will also continuously put pressure to monitor to make sure that the person will indeed vacate. The reason why we're not just going to say, no, we're going to evict. Because even if I cancel the lease agreement, so say, for example, they sent out the letter of demand on the 5th of April, most probably we would cancel the 6th of May. I didn't do my counting now, so please don't just do it. It's an estimation. You have to take out the public holidays. So I'm just guessing now. But so on the 5th of May, that means we can only cancel them. Then the eviction process will run. And if I'm going to quickly do this. If you look at this flow of the eviction process, as you would see is it's not just going there, cancelling it, knock on the door and throw them out. There's a very large process that you follow. The notice of motion which gets issued, it has to be served with the sheriff on the person and on the tenants and on the municipality. And then they have a time to say whether they oppose the application or not. Now you're going to say to me, Elise, but on what basis can they oppose? Remember, they don't have to have a reason. Most people oppose because they want to play for time. The big thing is it does delay the matter. The moment they file a notice of intention to oppose, it can delay. It not just can, it most probably will delay the whole process. At this stage, Cape Town works fantastically. Mohammed, Leo, and attorneys are able at this stage to actually get us eviction orders granted when it was the 4-2 notice hearing. And so then we don't have to do the 3 phases. Unfortunately, not all courts work that way. And not all people, so it's not always a cut and paste for all provinces. So keep that in mind, that is the whole process. If I can get somebody out faster, then we will take it. If we can't get them out faster, then and there's no alternative, then we follow the full process. Is it a guarantee? No. I have to be honest, and I think that is part that our clients always appreciate it. We have the discussion with our tenants, and we say to them, from the history, there's nothing to show that this person will not vacate. Because honest agents, you and me know, you can somewhere see which ones are going to be the difficult ones and which ones not. Based on that, we say, listen, let's say 80-20%. 80% they will vacate, but there's that 20 or 10%. So that is the things that we have to consider. I'm just going to quickly look at the questions. Okay, Rex's question has been answered. Thank you, Zelda. I saw Miriam's one as well. High dust collection also include the utilities and levies outstanding. Miriam, remember, in terms of the lease agreement, they have to pay their rent, the utilities, the internet, whatever they need to pay. That's the full amount. So if they don't pay the full amount, they're in breach. If they don't pay the full amount demanded, the matter can be handed over to us. Okay, so that's the one that I wanted to mention. And then Leonie, we have a tenant that qualified with their ITC when the lease started a year ago. Now on the renewal, we saw that their ITC is not up to date. They have a default on their name, but they do pay their rent every month. May we renew the lease? So this is a very good question. I think, Leonie, just not on the ITC, maybe have a conversation with the tenants. Because when you do the renewal, you charge your owner and you say that, listen, we're going to reassess whether it's going to be advisable to renew it. At this stage, yes, they've been paying. So the big thing is you have to have the conversation with the tenant. Do they still have affordability? Did they default because there's a dispute, or they forgot, or I don't know, they didn't like the place anymore? I don't know what's the reason. Or is it because somebody lost their employment? Is it because they might run into affordability? So I would say definitely over and above the fact that what the ITC is saying, remember it's a tool, is again, this is now an alarm being raised. I, as an agent, I feel an agent has an obligation then to again make sure that the person has affordability. So you'll have to connect with your tenant and just make sure and say, we see, I mean, if everything was clear, you did pay up and everything, then it most probably isn't necessary to connect with the tenant in that much details. But if you see a change, it is a good idea to connect and say, listen, on any event, want to check, is all your contact details still the same? Agents, curiosity. Do all of you actually, when you do the renewal, make sure all the contact details are still the same? And if any of the numbers has changed, numbers and emails. I'm looking at all the ones. The reason why I'm also asking this is I've seen people, the lease agreement stipulates the email address is 123 Gmail, but if you look at the correspondence or the statements are sent to 123 Yahoo or 123 boxco.za, because that's actually, they're no longer using that email, but they're using a new email. But that is not updated in the lease agreement. Remember, if you want to send your correspondence and you want to proceed the legal process, it has to be sent to the email address that the people allocated as their domicilium. So always renewal, make sure you do update contact details. And also ask, do you have a different WhatsApp number to your telephone number? I was quite surprised. I don't know if it's because of my old age or what is the story, but to find out that not everybody's telephone number is their WhatsApp numbers. People actually have different WhatsApp numbers. So just to check that. So Leonie, I now typically answered your question without answering your question, but I hope I gave you enough guidance in order to take the matter further. So that is with this. The last point that I want to, not the last point, but that is important to note here is nothing should be done to prejudice or might prejudice the eviction. Guys, and I see this, the tenants are abusive. The landlords are super abusive and they're emotional. And you are really stuck in the middle. And agents, you know, sometimes it is tempting. You want to go cut electricity. You maybe want to go remove doors. If your landlord goes that effect, remember, if it's handed over to us, you don't have to take that abuse. We will take it. Okay, we at Xpello, we drink lots of tea and coffee to keep us strong and sometimes a bit stronger stuff. And we really take the abuse. But I also have seen that we have the conversation with the landlord where we stipulate and say that, listen, if you are going to do anything that kind of prejudice this matter, because you want the person out tomorrow and I can't get them out for you tomorrow legally, then I am going to cancel Xpello. What is the consequences of this? This means that if your illegal eviction, if you don't go to jail, or they don't bring an urgent application against you, and you want to start with a normal eviction, you have made it a messy eviction. Because overall, all evictions, when it starts, the tenant is the victim and the landlord is the money grabber. And it is very important to show that the tenant is actually not the victim here, but the villain. Loosely put, okay? I'm not saying all tenants is villains, but just in the scenario. I've seen with quite a couple of hard conversations with landlords that once I've explained this to them, they do agree to give us the time to do the job that we do. Then they see the benefit and it actually runs smoothly. Because the moment they do understand that we are on their side, you know, then they are willing to let it go and let us follow the process. Also, when we take over a matter, agent, if the tenant phones you, please refer them to us. We don't want to have an instance that the tenant is contacting the agent and then us or then the landlord. Because have you guys seen kids, eh? They want to do something, they go to mom, mom says no, they go to dad, dad says yes, because they want to, the second answer until they get what they want. Tenants know that maybe if they play on the feelings of the landlord or that relationship, it's going to have an influence. So landlords and tenants, also agents, advise your landlord that this is now in the hands of Xpello. We do tell them, if the tenant contacts you, you purely go and say, so sorry, this matter is now being dealt with Xpello, please speak to them. Yeah, but you're the owner of the property. Yes, but I'm a member of them. So for them, they're doing the work. I'm not doing the work. So just refer to us. Also, something happened, and I think it's sort of what I want to say here. Many times these tenants then go and they go find a new tenant, they're going to move that side. And lots of time people feel they've got the principle to tell the people what bad tenants these people are. Remember, what is a bad tenant for you might not be a bad tenant for somebody else. Somebody else might be happy for them to pay on the 10th of every month. Or they don't mind to beg and plead with the tenant every month for them to get payment, because that's how their book works. So I think the safer, again, the moment it's handed over to Xpello, sit back. I want to say relax. I know you're not going to relax, but sit back and let us do the process. I think that is the important part. Also, I want to say to agents and everyone, even the owners managing their own properties, the moment we cancel a lease agreement, please stop sending invoices. Pause for dramatic effect. It's not, I don't have a script, but I sort of want to emphasize this. I know everybody is being taught to say, okay, but remember, the moment it's cancelled, you start invoicing for damages suffered. The reason why you do that is that if the landlord issues summons and they want a statement for that stage, then you can see this. With Xpello clients, by the time we cancel, it's only going to be 1 month. So you're not going to be able, if we cancel and we proceed with the eviction, our attorneys proceed with the summons, they will calculate the continuous damages per day. So technically at that stage, they won't need an invoice. It also prevents the possible risk that you send out an invoice asking for rent. Okay, see this small thing. A small error in wording. And unfortunately, you can't go back and go, oops, sorry, that's not what I meant. If you accidentally send out an invoice or a statement asking for rent after the lease has been cancelled, you are basically sinking our whole eviction application. I laughed and said, I think that was the one time in court I actually wanted to hit my client over the head with a file, because on the eviction day, it came about, they kept on asking for rental. Remember, you can only ask for rental if there's a lease agreement in place. There's a lease agreement in place, it means you can't proceed with an eviction. So to be safe, at a later stage, if the attorneys need a statement, then you can go and update it and just generate it. But don't, for safety's sake, if you're not sure, rather just stop it. So that's the update regarding a letter of demand. Is there any questions with regards to the letter of demand and when it should be referred and how Xpello deals with it? All happiness. I love it. Okay. How do the landlord come into contact? Okay. Vishnu, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Zelda will take your details and she will contact you. Okay. So that's the good news. Guys, alternatively, we are going to also drop applications at Xpello. If you have any questions regarding signing up with Xpello or the membership fees or all of that, you're welcome to just share email applications at xpello.co.za. So at the end of the lease, the moment your application, the tenant advised they're going to vacate, or you see it's the end of the lease and you know it's not going to be renewed, just send an application to email to applications@xpello.co.za saying this tenant will vacate the end of April, for example, or on the portal, you can make a note and say it's going to vacate then. Ideally, I know agents are super busy and you need to arrange your time. But please, if you can, at least a week before the date that you have to vacate, try and arrange the handover of the keys. The reason for this is because if you want to a week beforehand, you contact the tenant and then they go suddenly, no, I'm not going to vacate. Then at least it gives Xpello an opportunity to see if we can help them to vacate. Because we're going to ascertain, is it because they found a place but they can't move, or is it because they didn't find a place? But at least we can immediately advise Bridge and Xpello and tell them what to do. We see so many people, the people supposed to move out on the 30th of the month, then on the 30th or on the 2nd, then people phone Xpello and say, but these people didn't vacate, you have to get them out now because I've got new tenants moving in. Guys, we can't get people to move out overnight. We're going to contact them. So the more time you guys give us to be able to do our work, the better chance we have to resolve the matter. So that's one of the things that I think is quite important. So remember to cancel normal things. Listen, because remember, if there's no lease agreement, people are not going to pay for Xpello. So Xpello works on a month-to-month basis. So tenant's going to vacate, high applications, tenant's going to vacate, please end Xpello service for the end of April. If the people don't vacate the end of April, we are going to evict them because they're illegal. So don't worry that because you cancelled end of April and they don't vacate April, that we're not going to do our job. When we're not going to do our job is if you didn't tell us they didn't vacate and you tried to struggle for a month to solve it yourself. Why we're so strict with us being informed is the longer you allow somebody to delay the process, the more difficult it becomes to get them out of the property. So that is why we want to be involved from the very onset. So ideally, I think this is still very maybe optimistic. I don't know if I can put Carol or Aubrey or somebody, one of the agents here, so your names are on top, on the spot and say, is a week beforehand to arrange dates to hand over keys a reasonable time? You can pop that in the question. I should make that a poll the next time. So if you guys can pop it in there, I think that's going to be a interesting thing to look at. So overall evictions takes about 12 to 18 weeks, depending on the court, depending on the time of year, depending on the province. We use the best attorneys to do our matters. Okay, really, guys, they have the knowledge, they've got the expertise, they've got the reputation, and they really perform because we pick attorneys that's passionate about our investors and we are our clients. But remember, even the best, you can have the best gun, but if you don't have the bullets, so they have no control over the courts. They have no control that if the matter is being heard on Tuesday and they arrive at court, the court says, listen, we're not proceeding because of load shedding. It's not their fault. It sucks. It's frustrating. We can blame on numerous people. It's not the attorney's fault. And unfortunately, you can't tell a judge, no, but take out your pen and paper, start typing, start writing. They don't have that authority. So know that our attorneys really will do absolutely everything they can. We only work with the people that thinks out of the box, that goes the 120 miles or 180 miles or the 1,000 miles beyond. But things can still go wrong. And of course, we will do absolutely everything that's legally possible. Okay, I'm an investor myself. I know that feeling of frustration. And as long as you as the agent and the owner knows is we are on your side. We want to find out what's the best. The best for you might not always be what you like, but our job is to take the emotion out of it, strip really the emotions, look at the facts, and then make a way, choose a way that's the best. Sean is asking, is one of the attorneys Bruno Samal? Yes, Sean, they are. Alexa's actually online here. So if you want us to connect you, please let me know. So this is the session this morning about when to hand over to Xpello, what we look at in the process we follow. Miriam says 2 weeks. That's even better. Again, the more we know, the better. It really helps us a lot. Is there any questions? One of the questions was, is this going to be available? So the last time we tried to record and everything, what I'm going to do is I'm really going to share this on YouTube. And what we'll do is we'll send a mailer out to everyone to say, listen, this is the link. You're welcome to go there and have a look at it. Okay, so the recording will be available. Agencies, if you want me or any of my team members to come and give training at your offices, then we can give more detail and we can focus on your process or things that you guys might find important. Please let us know and we can arrange it for you. We want to make everything as easy as possible. We want to make it understandable. This is not a good process. It's not a process that one goes, oh yeah, you need to evict, or even that thing is, I'm going to sue you. People still feel a bit confident. An eviction is not a good process, but we can make it as endurable as possible. We had an owner saying, Elise, this was, it's terrible to evict the tenant, but we were thankful for Xpello being with us all the way. And I think that is really saying what we focus on. Guys, this has been me. I hope that we didn't keep you out too long for the whole day. If there's any questions or anything we did not touch on this morning, or you do not want to enter, yes, thank you, Zelda. Sean, you were the one that asked quite a couple of questions, and I always appreciate some interaction and so forth. So, and not just because you've asked the last question. We do have a gift we usually hand out to our attendees. So we want to say thank you for attending this morning, and you're going to be our lucky winner. Zelda now again most probably prepared something very nicely, and now I'm taking that away from her. So I will just share her. Where's my emojis? Let's do that. Yay, celebration emoji. Congratulations on that, Sean. Zelda will be in contact to get your details that we can just send you your gift. Everyone, if there's no other questions, I wish you all the best for the month, best for the year. Remember, you're welcome to share our contact details with all your members. These webinars are free. Thank you very much, Alexa. Everyone, keep well, be safe, and it's great. I'm glad to see you guys are enjoying it and doing everything. Keep well, be safe. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Elise. It was a wonderful presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.